What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today we've got Cardano, Chainlink, and Algorand. I'm sure you're all wondering what's going on with these cryptos. When are they going to recover? Have they bottomed? If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of these cryptos. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders, the better investors we're all going to become. So with that being said, guys, let's jump straight into Cardano here. One thing that caught my eye, and of course, to many people, they're probably looking at this and thinking it's a nothing burger. The CEO of the Cardano Foundation, Friedrich Gregard, I apologize if I'm butchering that name, but he just announced that another bank has added support for ADA staking. This is a bank called Amina, which is in Switzerland. So, you might think, okay, well, this is a nothing burger. Switzerland is very pro crypto. They have a lot of these types of like integrations and offerings, right? And it seems to be a smaller bank, let's say. But one thing I think a lot of people are overlooking is that recently the OCC in the United States put out an announcement basically confirming that banks could not only custody crypto, but they could, quote, and I quote, participate in independent node verification networks such as distributed ledgers, I should say, which is pretty crazy, right? That kind of opens the door to banks in the US not only offering custody for ADA, which again, of course, it's one of the most popular cryptocurrencies. Of all the cryptos that would probably have custody services in the US, like offered by banks, I imagine ADA would be up there with Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP and these big ones, right? And not only that, but because ADA does have, staking rewards, staking, through the stake pool operators and everything, I do think that there's going to be room there for banks to potentially start doing stuff on Cardano. Obviously, I don't think this is going to happen tomorrow. It's not something that's imminent. I'm not saying that this is going to, happen right away and then there's going to be a massive pump, but it's definitely one thing to keep your eye on that I think a lot of people have overlooked here, and a catalyst that I do think could take ADA a lot higher in the coming weeks. And this brings me to the chart, guys. So as you can see, this time around, for the last few weeks, I've been like, looking at these key levels, which I still have drawn out in another chart here. But I decided this week we're going to do things a little bit differently, and maybe actually teach you guys a little bit more about trading, because over the last couple of weeks it's been more like rambling and just like commenting what's going on. So let's do some actual education here. So what you're looking at here, guys, is ADA on the weekly, and again, like, in my honest opinion, I think ADA is completely fine. It's just been chopping in a range, same like most cryptos. But with that out of the way, one thing that's really interesting about ADA is that it's painting actually a pretty bullish pattern. This is actually a reversal pattern, and it's called basically a 3 stars in the south. And typically when you get a pattern like that, this is just like an example, like one of many examples. When you get a pattern like that, it's typically, again, like a reversal sign that suggests that there's going to be a pretty sizable rally in the coming weeks, I guess, in this case, because of course it depends on the time frame. If it's on a shorter time frame, then it means a recovery in the coming days. But this pattern here on the weekly tells me that ADA is likely to recover here in the coming weeks. And again, like, we saw something similar like that even like back in February, which was why I was believing that ADA would recover and a lot of other cryptos would recover. It looked like it was bottoming around that level as well, but it really does depend on how this weekly candle closes. If it closes around this level or even slightly above, that would be excellent. That would definitely, in my view, confirm that ADA is going to be recovering, sometime towards the end of the month and hopefully in April. So that's the first pattern, I guess, of many that we're going to be covering today. And if you are feeling brave and you do think that you want to, start trading some ADA ahead of this potential recovery, then be sure to take advantage of the Binance deal we have. It's a 20% trading fee discount and up to $600 in bonuses. That's the biggest deal that you can get. It's one that's offered exclusively through the Coin Bureau, and it's a deal that won't be around forever. So do take advantage of it. It's completely free. You get a trading fee discount. We get a cut of those trading fees, and the exchange gets a new user. It's a win-win-win for everyone, especially during bull markets, which I do believe that we still are in a bull market. Anyways, guys, moving on now to Chainlink. Similar story here. This is, I think, stuff that's kind of been overlooked as a result of the recent price action. There's been continued growth in the tokenized real-world assets niche, and a lot of people have forgotten that a couple months ago, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, had been pushing for the SEC to approve the tokenization of bonds and stocks. And of course, all those assets are going to need some data feeds, right? And of course, Chainlink is the top oracle for these data feeds. So it's a crypto. It's like on that infrastructure side, it's one of the cryptos that would benefit the most from tokenized tokenized real world assets. And the thing is that this is something that's still in progress. Like, this hasn't disappeared. Just because it's like taking some time doesn't mean it's over. Just because prices have been going down doesn't mean it's over. But of course, for most people, they don't really care that these catalysts are still in play. If the prices are going down, then it means everything is over, especially if you're someone who's been holding for a long time. Which of course, I guess, brings me now to the Chainlink chart, or the link chart on the weekly. Same idea here. Like, again, I do believe that Chainlink has been chopping in a range, just like most altcoins. Of course, in Chainlink's case, it's been chopping in a little bit of a lower range compared to something like ADA in recent months. But regardless, as you can see here on the weekly, guys, we also have a potentially bullish pattern forming. Of course, we're still kind of midway through the week, so it's a little bit too soon to say. But the pattern that's forming here is called bullish engulfing, and I'll show you guys what all these candlestick patterns look like at the end of the video. But if we do see Link close above or around this current level, which is around, let's say, $14, if it closes around like 13.5 or $14 by the end of the week, then that would potentially mark a bottom, and again, a reversal. That in the next couple of weeks here, that we should see Link starting to slowly but surely recover. So that's that's one really promising signal. And same thing here. Back in February, I saw this pattern that was forming here on Link's weekly chart, and it's another one of the reasons, in addition to like the strong support around like $19. It was one of the reasons why I believe that could be a local bottom, and it could have recovered from there. But of course, we got more FUD around the tariffs and stuff like that, which again, unfortunately, that FUD hasn't been completely washed out. But I do think that most of that FUD is over. There is some stuff coming on April 2nd, but let's just say, we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. I do think that the bigger thing to watch in the short term is the Fed meeting, which is going to happen tomorrow, but I'll talk more about that tomorrow. So this brings me to Algorand, and same thing here, guys, like in terms of the tokenized real world assets. One thing that I think a lot of people have been overlooking, especially with the Trump administration coming in, a lot of people have kind of like, forgotten about all this, like, all this push to like being carbon neutral or and whatever, which, whatever your opinion is, this seems to be something that large institutions and governments are pushing for. And so, do you want to be right or do you want to make money, I guess, is the question here. And of course, Algorand is one of these cryptos that has been super involved in like this carbon reduction and stuff like that. And I hope this video won't get flagged for me mentioning that word. But it's funny stuff. Anyways, but the point here is that the tokenization of carbon credits is another thing I think a lot of people are overlooking when it comes to tokenized real world assets. There's been a lot of focus on digitizing like all this carbon stuff and emissions, right? And with Algorand kind of being involved here with the likes of Chevron and these big companies, I do think that the ALGO is one of these cryptos that could benefit. Some of you might recall there was actually a niche for this. I think it was called refi, or regenerative finance, right? This is somewhere that Algorand could fall into, and you could say that refi kind of falls under the umbrella of tokenized real world assets. So maybe refi is more of like a narrative rather than a niche, because niche is kind of like tokenized real world assets, and then within that you have like different narratives, and one of them could be like tokenized stocks, and another one could be like tokenized carbon credits. In this case, again, I do think that's potentially where Algorand could fall into. And again, it would make sense, right, from Algorand's perspective as a strategy. If all these other chains are focusing on tokenized government debt and tokenized stocks, how can Algorand stick out? It can do tokenized carbon credits, right? And I do think that's one place that it could see some growth from. Again, I'm not saying that this is something that's going to happen right away, or something that's guaranteed, but it is something worth flagging, I think, and something worth keeping in mind over the next few weeks. Of course, that brings me to Algorand's price action, and exactly like ADA, you can see that we're seeing a potential 3 stars in the south pattern here, same like before, which could be marking a reversal. But of course, the catch is that just like with these other charts, you could see that we also got a 3 stars in the south pattern, potentially forming in early February. Of course, that failed to play out, and then it continued rolling over. But all things considered, I do think that Algo's rolled over kind of as much as it can. It's really at the strong long-term support line at around, whatever, the 18-20 cents roughly, right? And so I honestly don't think that is going to roll over again. Like, it would just, that would be unprecedented, I think. I think the chances of a recovery from here are much higher. But of course, we're going to have to play it by ear. But for the time being, assuming that this weekly candle stays roughly where it is, then Algorand, in my opinion, has a good chance of bouncing back, just like ADA and Link. And it's worth pointing out as well, guys, that it's really interesting when you look at these charts and you see like these declines, that you can see like the first wave of decline is like very big, and the second wave of decline is like slightly smaller, and then the third one one is like even smaller, right? You can almost see like in these charts, even without any knowing any of these indicators or whatever, you can see that there's almost like this like seller exhaustion. Not It's not as evident in like, let's say, a chart like Link, but in a chart like Algorand, you can see that like there does seem to be like, less and less selling on the way down. It's like all the people who wanted to sell have already sold, and the only people left are basically true believers, you could say. And the result of that is, of course, is like, there are no buyers, which is why it's not pumping, but there also aren't many sellers left, which is why it's unlikely to dump anymore. It's like the more selling that there is, like the more people get out, then the less sellers there are left to continue selling, if that makes any sense. And this is something that a lot of people forget. It's just like a very basic structural thing of the crypto market. And again, yet another reason, in my opinion, to be bullish on Algorand here in the coming weeks. But of course, we'll have to play things by ear. This brings me to the candlestick patterns cheat sheet. I'll actually leave a link to this down in the description. It's something that I use personally. I've been checking this cheat sheet. I think like, well, I used to check it like almost every single day. Now I'm really familiar with all these patterns, like just off the top of my head, and it's really useful in helping like identifying reversals and trends. Whether it's like a reverse, like like a bullish candlestick pattern that maybe signifies the end of a bullish trend, or a bearish candlestick pattern that signals the end of a bullish trend. Sorry, butchering the explanation there, but you get what I mean. Just familiarize yourself with these patterns, and it'll really help you out a lot there. Yeah, guys. And again, the link to that will be in the description. Save this image. I mean, I guess that's not really financial advice, but I would save this image, and I would, like just familiarize yourself and just look at your favorite cryptos and look at the charts, especially on longer term time frames, and see if you see any evidence of reversal. That the bearish trend is going to end, or reversal that the bullish trend, if there is a bullish trend out there, then to check and see if that bullish trend is also at risk of reversing, let's say. So yeah, guys, if you did make it this far, I do hope you find that information helpful. And if you did, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.